Have you ever had one of those days where things just feel fine, not amazing, not terrible, just okay? You're in the grocery store or you're driving down the highway minding your business. You feel steady. You think, maybe I'm finally getting over this. Maybe I'm finally getting my footing after everything that's happened. And then, out of nowhere, it hits. Not a slow sadness, not a gentle ache, not a full body gut punch. But your chest starts to tighten, your throat starts to close, breathing even starts to feel a little bit harder. You're suddenly fighting tears in the cereal aisle or pulling over on the side of the road because you can't stop sobbing. If that's happened to you, let me say this clearly. You're not losing your mind and you're not going backwards. You're experiencing something grief specialists called a STUG, a sudden temporary upsurge of grief. The term was coined by grief researcher Dr. Teresa Rando, and it describes those intense emotional waves that come out of nowhere, sometimes months, even years after a loss. Think of grief like the ocean. Over time, the water settles, the waves get smaller, life feels a little bit calmer. A STUG is a rogue wave, a tsunami that crushes into you without warning and knocks you off your feet. And when it happens, the shame talk usually starts. I thought I was doing better. Why is this happening again? Am I back at square one? No, you're not. A STUG is not a failure. It's not a weakness. It's not regression. It's connection. These happen because we know when we're grieving, love doesn't die when the person did. And because that love is still alive. And grief still has a pulse. Most STUGs are triggered by something your rational brain doesn't even catch. It's not always those big dates or anniversaries. Often it's small sensory things. A song on the radio, a familiar scent, an old receipt in a coat pocket. Those cues bypass your logic and go straight to the nervous system. For a split second, your brain remembers the world as it used to be. And when reality snaps back, that loss hits you all over again. That moment is brutal. So, what do you do when grief ambushes you like that? Here are 3 things I want you to have in your back pocket to be ready if you should be swept away in a STUG. First, you name it. When the wave hits, say it plainly. This is a STUG. This is temporary. Naming it keeps you oriented. It reminds your nervous system that this is temporary and it's not a permanent collapse. The chemicals flooding your body will burn off. This will pass, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Step 2, use a grief container. If a STUG hits you in public or at work, you might shove it down just to function, and that's completely understandable. But grief doesn't disappear when you ignore it, so you want to give it a place to go later. Set aside intentional time, an hour in the evening, a walk, a journal, a song, a letter you never send. When grief knows it has a scheduled place to land, it often stops crashing through your day unannounced. And third, always have a plan B. If you're walking into situations you know are loaded, things like holiday celebrations, weddings, anniversaries, give yourself an exit. Drive yourself, sit near an owl, have one safe person you can text. Knowing you can leave lowers the pressure, and less pressure means fewer emotional explosions. So here's the truth: STUGs are terrifying, they're exhausting, they can make you feel like the ground isn't solid anymore. But there are also evidence of deep attachment, of real love and bonds that mattered. Grief doesn't vanish, it changes shape. And these waves are just part of that ocean you're learning to live beside. So when the next one hits and knocks the wind out of you, pause, breathe, let it move through. You will not drown, you will resurface again.